Alright guys, welcome back to Frog Boy X1 Gaming. I'm Andrew, and today I wanted to talk to you guys about this 1080p monitor that I decided to pick up today. Now I was kind of sitting here, I was kind of at work, just kind of thinking. I was like, you know what guys, I want to kind of go out of my way to put myself back in a back in a position where 1080p was a thing. So with 1080p with 1080p TVs, we never got HDR. HDR was basically a feature that was exclusive to 4K televisions. But with monitors, you can get HDR on your 1080p, you can get HDR on 1440p as well as 4K. So I was like, you know what? I want to see how native 1080p is going to look on PC with max settings and all of that stuff. So I was like, dude, that's a good idea. But then I started thinking, I was like, but then I could start covering the ROG Ally. So I can hook the ROG Ally up to it, run it on a 1080p native screen and see how that looks, see how that turns out. Obviously Xbox Series S, I'll be able to test that out. Be able to throw, I guess I could test the PS5 and the PS5 Pro and the Series X on there too. I don't know. I got a lot of content ideas for this. And I was thinking, so the first thing I've done is I've been testing it on the PC. Now, there's some things that automatically stand out. This is the ASUS TUF. Gosh dang it, what was the name of it? It's like I should probably have this information already, but this one here is the VG27V or something. And it's not a bad monitor. It's got all these I don't know, dude, you can't really turn it. I mean, you can turn it, but it doesn't go up any higher. So you can bevel it like this if you want it. I mean, if you take the stand off, it will turn all the way around. It's got this little swivel right here on the base. Very, very cool. If we turn it around and we look at the back of this, man, the back of this monitor actually looks pretty cool. It has its own speakers in it, I found out. It's got speakers and they actually sound pretty decent. They're not too terrible. It's got, the volume rockers right here. It's also got the menu button. You can get in there and play around with stuff. Now, this one here is FreeSync Premium Pro, but it does not have G-Sync support for it. So if you've got an NVIDIA GPU, oh no, what happened? Did I pull out the cord? What did I do? Turn it off or did I break it? I probably broke it. Like it is a weird one. There we go. So after playing around with this one for a while and like testing it out, playing some games on there, trying out my virtual super resolution, how I like to downsample and stuff, I've noticed some interesting quirks about this particular monitor. Obviously I'm gonna have to play around with it a little bit more, but I get, I feel like you get more ghosting because it's an IPS display. So I feel like you're getting more ghosting. Some of the other problems that are inherent to that, you get obviously the 240 hertz refresh rate. So I mean, most of the games that I'm playing on here feel absolutely smooth. They feel absolutely smooth, and I'm just like, wow, this is a good experience. But man, I miss my freaking OLED. I mean, that is, man, once you go OLED, it's so hard to go back. I ended up turning off the HDR on this because, for some reason with these IPS displays, I was even turning off the HDR sometimes on some games on the LG. But for what I paid for this monitor at 260, it was like 260 something bucks, like 249 out the door. Picked it up at Best Buy. You can get these on Amazon. I'll drop a link in the description for this if you wanted to pick this monitor up and give it a shot. It doesn't have a glossy screen. It's got kind of like a matte finish to it, but the overall performance and overall experience so far has been pretty decent. I mean, it's definitely not like a cheap filling monitor, if that makes any sense. It actually feels pretty decent. Obviously having the built-in speakers is absolute freaking bonus. But for the most part, I like the design. I like the way it looks. it's a pretty nice looking monitor. Like if you came in and you saw this monitor sitting there, you'd be like, dang, that's a pretty nice monitor. It looks pretty good. The overall image quality for games. Let me pull up a VG game for you guys so you guys can take a look at one of those. I won't put on that one again. I mean, we can look at something like Horizon Forbidden West. That should come over here. So Horizon Forbidden West is like one of the games that I tried. Now I've been trying a lot of my Ubisoft games. I've had some Star Wars on here, running that game at like really super high frame rates, and you know, it just looks so incredible the way that these games are looking on this monitor. I've just got to find a better way to kind of capture the screen, because it's kind of like showing, like in some instances it'll be showing like these little banding things that aren't there in real life. Like they're definitely not there. This monitor actually looks pretty good in person. The only real thing is obviously once you've gotten used to the way OLED technology looks, and then you see something like this, it just kind of, oh no, we don't need that. It just kind of has that. We'll just go ahead and continue and like get right into this world real quick and just kind of show you guys what this looks like, because the overall image quality and clarity is actually pretty good for 1080p at 27 inches. You get this like, it's not necessarily like a soft look, but it definitely looks, you know, like this right here. Like when I'm looking at this right here. Let me kind of tilt the screen up a little bit. So when I'm looking right here, at this far away from this distance, you know, obviously I can touch it. I can reach out and touch it. The trees back here kind of look, you know, just not defined. And then you look up there into the fog and everything. Obviously you've got like some pretty decent color reproduction going on here. It looks good. Like I look at this. I look at this pile right here, and I look at the ground and all the grass and everything, and it looks good. Like it looks defined. It is a very nice looking image quality. Performance wise, it's just absolutely freaking beautiful. Like it's so smooth and so clean that like when you look at that and you play a game on this monitor, it really is nice. It really does have this really nice overall image quality to it that, oh my gosh, like it I don't know, guys. I feel like 1080p is still a viable option for gaming these days. I definitely feel like you can save a pretty good amount of money. Like I said, $250 for this. You buy like your, you know, you get yourself like a pre-built or something, you know, like 7600 XT, or, you know, even a 4060 Ti, whatever. You go out and you get one of those. You got a nice, good, you know, $1,500 setup right there with a really decent monitor at a pretty compelling size that has the ability to give you pretty high frame rates. And I have tested this with frame generation on some of these games, and it actually does a pretty dang good job. Very smooth. It feels just like my 1440p OLED does in terms of like consistency and stability and stuff like that. So I'm thinking, I'm like, wow, guys, like this is actually quite impressive. You know, could you imagine playing games like this on 1080p when 1080p was the actual, like, this is the resolution? You look at the amount of detail and fidelity in the new visuals in some of these games, and you're just like, my freaking goodness, that just looks incredible. There's so much fidelity in the image quality, and when you're looking at it, it really does look good. Obviously, higher resolutions are going to pull out more of that detail for real. But this, what it looks like in just its basic form at 1080p, my gosh, you see all these blades of grass, like you see everything. That's the thing, like you see everything, and it doesn't look out. It doesn't, like, the shape of everything looks good. So you're just like, wow. I'm actually quite surprised at how good this turned out, and this looks on 1080p. Like, I could literally play this, and, you know, once my eyes adjusted to it, when I first turned it on and I was playing around with it for a minute, like I was like, oh my gosh, I could just see everything, you know, like everything like stood out to me like a sore thumb. But then as I started playing around with it and I'm playing it and, you know, going through like the, you know, like the motions with how incredibly freaking smooth it feels to play on this monitor, I was like, my freaking goodness, man, like it just feels great. I can see what I want to see. I can play, you know, I mean, it just feels like an incredible experience that I'm like, oh man, I would much rather. Here's the thing. After playing PC now for a couple of years, I can tell you right now that this image quality is satisfying for me. I'm satisfied with the way that looks. The one thing that probably matters the most to me at this point, at this stage in PC gaming, is probably the fluidity of the gameplay. So having like higher frame rates, you know, buying something like this and being able to push the frame rates pretty high, or utilizing like frame generation over on the LG OLED ultra wide 1440p monitor, having the ability to push up over 100 frames a second and get up to 200 or whatever, that has transformed the experience even more for me. It's crazy, you know, you go from like 16.9, you know, you go to ultra wide. That was a transforming experience. I'll tell you what, these are the things, since I've been a PC gamer, these are the things that have been more transformative than anything else. And I mean, we'll go back. So HDR, very transformative. 4K to a certain extent, not as much as HDR though. I would much rather prefer HDR over 4K. Ultra wide has absolutely been incredible. And then the smoothness of high refresh rate. I would say that ray tracing, but it just hasn't been like something that's hit the mark every single time. So it's something that like it comes and it goes. Sometimes it looks fine, sometimes it doesn't. Because I can play Alan Wake 2 at native 1080p on this GPU with path tracing and everything on there, and I look at that and I'm just like, it's not as transformative as you would think it would be. For the amount of performance that you lose, it just wasn't worth it. So I turn it off and I get this incredible performance back, and I'm just like, wow, this is such an incredible game. And I played through that without the ray tracing and all of that. And another one, Cyberpunk. I tried Cyberpunk. I can get over 30 frames a second at 1080p with path tracing enabled. So therefore it is playable. And so when you're playing around with that and you're walking around and you're looking around and stuff and you're looking at the ray tracing of that game, and it just comes back as like, okay, it's not as impressive as something like HDR is. It's not something as impressive as freaking OLED. Like OLED, HDR, high refresh rate, ultra wide. Those are some absolutely incredible things that I think that you could benefit more from spending your money on something like a 1080p high refresh rate monitor than you can spending the extra. Like, you're literally paying NVIDIA the amount of this monitor just in a markup over what you could get by buying an AMD card and just buying this monitor. You know what I mean? So it's like, that to me, this to me is probably more important and a more important upgrade than trying to chase something like ray tracing. But we do have, you know, like DLSS, and DLSS is getting better. It's gotten pretty good, and there are some games that I absolutely love it in, but still, it's one of those things like ray tracing where sometimes it like really freaking blows my mind, but then other times it's something that's like, okay, I don't necessarily like this because it's too sharp or whatever. I know a lot of people like that crisp look, and man, who am I to tell you what to like and what not to like? But so yeah, guys, I think that high refresh rate 1080p gaming is still viable. I think this monitor is absolutely freaking awesome. It looks incredible when I'm sitting here playing around with it. Like the image quality just looks great. Like I mean, I can, you know, see all the detail I need to see, and it looks incredible. Yes, obviously 1440p and 4K looks significantly better, but this is good enough with the amount of fidelity that's in video games these days. Wow, I can't believe 1080p looks as good. it's crazy because we'll turn on our 4K TVs and we'll play our 1080p or whatever games, and it just looks horrible. But then you come back and you look at it on a native 1080p screen, and it's like, gosh dang, that looks good. That looks way good. Way good. So, all right, my friends, if you like this content, do not forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.